All right. Meanwhile, let's start with the Fox News alert. In just 4 hours, the acting Secret Service director will testify on Capitol Hill about the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
And this morning, we are learning new details about how that shooter got on top of the roof before opening fire. The FBI reveals the gunman, he had access to the roof. He shot by climbing, or where he was shooting, he got up there by climbing up the building's HVAC and the pipes.
So he didn't need the ladder. Chad Pergram joins us live from the Capitol Hill. All right, Chad, what's going to happen today? Are we going to get some answers from the acting director that we weren't going to get from the director last week or 2 weeks ago?
Well, good morning. I'm told that this hearing probably will be a little more substantive than the hearing with the former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle last week. They're going to start in just about 4 hours in this hearing room behind me. So far, they have been able to establish a timeline about the shooting, but they don't still know a lot about the shooter. They're trying to determine a motive. There are more questions than answers. Dick Durbin is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and he will co-head this hearing today.
Why was the shooter able to conduct a renaissance at the fairgrounds on the morning of the rally? How and when was he able to bring an assault rifle on the premises? Why was the building from where the gunman shot excluded from the Secret Service security perimeter, despite being within range of an AR-15, the most popular rifle in America?
The FBI now says that Thomas Crooks bought guns and chemicals online, but there isn't much information yet about why the building from where he shot wasn't covered. And there are questions about communication between the Secret Service and local police. Michael Waltz of Florida is now on a special House task force investigating the shooting.
How does the Secret Service define suspicious versus active threat, and why was there such a breakdown between local law enforcement and the communication of getting that over to the core details so that President Trump could be either prevented from going out or pulled immediately? A lot to get to the bottom of.
It's been more than 2 weeks since the shooting, and that's why lawmakers are frustrated at the breakdown and lack of information. So is former President Trump. He praised Secret Service agents, but he has questions.
They were very brave because they were coming, bullets were flying over me because I went down, bullets were flying, and they were on top of me. They were very brave, I have to say that. Okay, with that being said, should have been somebody on the roof. There should have been communication with the local police, which there wasn't, so that's a bad thing. And they were seeing this guy, who was a very disturbed person, and they were seeing him around.
Now, the former president, he has agreed to be interviewed by the FBI. That will come on Thursday, and lawmakers and investigators continue to have questions. Did Crooks work alone? Guys, back to you.
Hey, Chad, do you believe that this is going to be a true bipartisan committee? You know, you talk to the people, that they're going to be equal on it. There should not be any politics involved in this. Are they going to approach this and from a bipartisan way when they come down to it?
So far, this has been pretty bipartisan, and there's kind of 2 or 3 inquests here. You have the co-hearing today with the Homeland Security Committee and also the Judiciary Committee, and what you're referring to there is the House task force. This is something that the House voted on last week. It does slide a little bit in the favor of the Republicans. There's 13 members on that committee. It's 7-6. That's the membership breakdown. But almost every member I have spoken to a T, Democrats and Republicans, they want to get to the bottom of this.
Indeed. And, Chad, unlike the Secret Service director who testified last week and then had to quit, this guy actually went to Butler. And apparently he got up on the roof and he laid down in the prone position to see the line of sight. So when the senators ask about that, at least he can say, I was there.
Yeah, and there's going to be questions to him about whether or not there were these requests from the Trump campaign for additional Secret Service agents and kind of bolstering, anything they can do to protect the former president there. He's somebody who would know and have direct knowledge of whether or not those requests were rejected. That's going to be a key line of questioning at this hearing today and other hearings in the future.
All right,
Chad,
Chad.
thank you so much.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.